Hi, I'm Judy Filarecki, and I'd like to welcome you to my website, filarecki.com. Today we're going to take a look at pastels and how you can combine them with water to get some really neat watercolor effects. I love the effects of watercolor, especially for backgrounds, and so I started experimenting with my pastels one day when I was doing a painting of roses. I'd like to show you what we can do with this maple leaf. Now here I've just put in some colors with my soft pastels, and then what I did here was did the traditional blending using a little blending brush, and that's the effect I got. Over on this side I added water to a brush and used it to create a different type of blending. It's really kind of neat, the difference you can see. It's really quite a simple procedure. All you have to do is take a wet brush, go into your pastel color, and pull it to where you want. Depending on how far you spread it, it'll get lighter and lighter, just like with watercolors. Now, here I want to bring some of the yellow up, and so I'm going to come in from that end. And that mixes just like watercolor would. Now I've just cleaned my brush so I don't have quite as much red on there because, well, there we go. I said I didn't have as much red on it, but apparently I still did have some. But see how neatly it blends? Now if you want to put the veins in, you can actually take your soft pastel while it's still wet and draw them in. Okay? And then I'm going to take my brush just a little bit drier, and I'm just going to go over those lines to soften them. And this is totally up to you what you want to do with them. I can even create okay? Try that again. I'm going to go into my reds and my yellows, and I'm going to drag them to where I want. Now you have to remember you're picking up colors on your brush as you go, so depending on what you want to do, depends on how much you want to clean your brush. Let me clean my brush and I'll show you. Alright, here's my yellows. I'm going to blend them in. I started to pick up some reds again, didn't I? But that'll give it a little texture. Just going to keep my paper handy here so I can keep drying the color off it. So this is very similar to watercolors, except you're using pastels. Now you probably say to me, well, why didn't you just use watercolor? Well, at that particular time I didn't have any watercolors, and so I thought I'd experiment and see what would happen if I wet the chalks. And this is the result. Now I want you to realize these are not oil pastels. These are soft pastels. You know, oil and water don't mix, so it wouldn't work very well for them. Now I have a big gap right in here, so what I think I'm going to do is use some red. Just going to lay a little color down. Take my brush and blend it in. A little gap there too we could fill in. All right, and look at how beautiful that looks. So we have total control over it, just like if you were using watercolors. Now another effect I discovered, which I'm really excited about, is that I can dissolve some of the pastel chalks in water and get the same effects in the background like I would with watercolor. First, what I did was I took some of the red and just tried to put some onto the plate. Sometimes if I have little scraps of pastel chalk left over, I'll use those and just crumble them because it'll give a little bit more of an effect. Then I took a clean wet brush and I just went into the colors to dissolve it, much like I did on the painting. And then they were ready for me to put on the painting themselves. Now, you know with watercolors that the color will only spread to what's wet. So what I'm going to do is just obviously you don't want to be doing this on a vertical page like I am, but let's see if I can start from down here. Okay. I've wet just around the leaf, in between the points. And if it all holds true, I should be able to dab color into that without it spreading into the leaf itself. Now the one thing I want you to see is when I dab this in, it's going to spread just like watercolors. And actually when it dries, the neat thing is that if you have mixed the chalk but not real thoroughly, you'll get darker spots and lighter spots, and it's really kind of neat to see. I mixed up some of the red earlier too. Let's see what we get with this. Now, like I said, because I'm doing this so you can see it on a vertical, it's running a little bit, but that's okay. So I can just play around with that. If I want to make the red a little more orange, I can just add some of the yellow into that. But here now, look at the softness that you're getting. But you're using pastels. Now if you want to make that even more distinct, again, you can take your chalk right into the red. Now you want to make some shapes. My brush is just slightly wet. I'm just going to dab into it. And again, look at what a beautiful effect it has had. Want to add a little more gold. Trying to get some shapes back in there, but that are very indistinct. And I can soften them as much or as little as I want. If one spot's a little bit too strong, just wet your brush again and blend it out. How's that? Now I have made the background a little bit stronger than I wanted to, only so that you could see it better on the video. But in actual painting, I probably would have softened it quite a bit more than that.